Hey Canucks fans, welcome to Clay's Canucks Commentary. It is Thursday, December the 27th. I'm Clay Emo. I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram. I'm a founding member of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. I'm excited. I'm very excited because it is game day. Finally, the Vancouver Canucks play again. The last time they played was that Saturday night loss, hosting the Winnipeg Jets, that 1-0 loss, that close game. But now, almost a whole week later, 5 days later, technically, December 27, they are in Edmonton to kick off a road trip that sees them play all Canadian teams except for the Winnipeg Jets. And that's because, as we know, they've been booted out of Rogers Arena so Rogers Arena can host the World Junior Championships, which I'll talk about in a second. But let's talk about tonight's game first. Full practice in Edmonton, and good news is Troy Stecher was skating, Brandon Sutter was skating, and Sven Baertschi was skating. All three of those injured players skating, but they were skating on extra lines or extra pairings. So we don't know if they're going to play tonight. Likely not, especially if they weren't part of the regular rotation, unless Travis Green wanted to get, looks at other guys. And I'm recording this before Travis Green does his press conference, so maybe he's going to contradict everything I say in the next few minutes. But it looks like Sutter, Baertschi, and Stecher will not play tonight. But we'll know in a little bit, probably after I've recorded this video, once Travis Green talks to the media. The way they skated was almost the same lineup as they went with Saturday night. In fact, I think it was the same lineup. When you have Horvat, Eriksson, and Virtanen on the top line, Pettersson, Besser, and Godolphin on the second line, then Gaudette with Granlund and Josh Levo, and then Jay Beagle with Roussel and Mott as your fourth line. Then your extra skaters are, again, Schaller, Sutter, and Baertschi. On the back end, same pairings. We have Edler and Tanev, Hutton and Gabranson, and then Pouliot and Biega in that crazy pairing that I always say that's high risk, high reward. Actually, not a lot of reward, just high risk. And then you had Delzato and Stecher as the extra pair. We'll see if Stecher's well enough to play tonight. I'm guessing Markstrom plays in net, but who knows? You never know with Travis Green. I'm guessing Jacob Markstrom plays given the 5 days of rest, or 4 days of rest at least, or 4 days off between games. So we shall see. Canucks obviously ended off their with a pretty strong homestand, and now let's see how they do on the road against the Edmonton Oilers team, where they're only 1 point behind in the standings. So picture this: if Vancouver wins tonight, and if Edmonton loses, which would make sense because Vancouver's playing Edmonton. But if Edmonton loses and Dallas loses, the Canucks will then be in the second wildcard spot in a playoff position, granted with 2 or 3 games in hand on most teams, but still, as I always say, they have to win those games, those teams with the games in hand. So bottom line, Canucks could be in a playoff spot by the end of tonight. That's pretty exciting. So, like I said, not sure what the lines and the pairings and who the starting goalie is. Not sure any of those things as I record this right now. But still exciting to see Stecher, Baertschi, and Sutter all at practice today. Another thing I want to talk about, I had my brother over we had a Christmas gathering on Boxing Day, but we started a Christmas gathering. And my brother's the one who knows a lot about hockey as well. And he's the one who does a lot of the music with me, produces a lot of the more professional sounding music, not the ones where I'm just playing the piano in my living room. But he's got some hot takes. He always does. Sometimes he publishes them on Twitter. Other times he wants me to publish them on Twitter. So there's one that, is given Jack Hughes, the U.S., we had that game on the TV, and, draft in Vancouver. I know a lot of people have been talking about would the Canucks ever put a package together to go for the first overall pick, that being Jack Hughes. Make a splash in Vancouver, Jack Hughes playing with Quinn Hughes, all those types of things. And I won't give away my brother's theory, but it involved Bo Horvat. It involved, a first-round pick of some sort. But really the question was, how low would that pick have to be before you're the Canucks and you would consider it? And vice versa, before you're the team receiving the offer, how high does the pick have to be for you to consider it? And then, he's got another theory that goes along with that. But I'm going to save that for another video. But it's kind of interesting, and I saw a lot of it on Twitter yesterday because of course, Jack Hughes playing in Vancouver, seeing us Canucks fans, seeing him play with his brother Quinn, and the potential of that happening in a Vancouver Canucks uniform. I still don't see it happening. If I had to, venture a guess or venture an opinion now, I still don't think the Vancouver Canucks should make a trade involving Horvat or anyone. And remember, this is just speculation, and I even told my brother I'm not a clickbait type of guy, so I'm not going to do a whole video on on who the Canucks should trade to try and get Jack Hughes. I'll let other YouTubers do that if they want, but it's just an interesting conversation that I'm sure we'll be having a few times over the next couple of weeks. And lastly, I want to talk about the World Junior Championship. All 4 Canucks prospects were in action. We'll do the easy ones first. Toni Uutinen, Finland lost 2-1 to Sweden. He's only, I think, 17 years old. I think he's the second youngest defenseman on the Finnish team. And I mentioned yesterday that he can play again next year. Not that he's worried about next year yet. So played relatively well in a tough 2-1 loss to Sweden. Then you had the 2 guys on the U.S. team. Quinn Hughes, no points, but the U.S. won 2-1. They won their game as well. Quinn Hughes looked great. You know, from the very first shift when he took a stick to the mouth. Very tough, didn't miss a shift, came out again. And every time he had the puck, you know, he did one amazing play where he went basically across the entire ice, so whatever that is, 80 to 100 feet, on a backhand pass through the neutral zone while he's getting smushed into the boards. Right there, that one pass told me that, you know, well, showed me again why we're so excited about him. Now, he is a high risk, high reward. He made a couple dangerous passes yesterday, but I think those are easily mitigated by how much flash and how much skill and how much potential he brings, especially on the offensive side. And Tyler Madden, he had an assist on the game-winning goal for the U.S., played in a top 6 role, and he looked really good, and he could, you know, make a splash for the Canucks a few years down the road. And then we have Michael DiPietro. I don't know why I said in yesterday's video that Ian Scott would be starting. DiPietro started yesterday. Scott will play tonight, and then Coach Tim Hunter even already said that DiPietro will be his guy going forward unless something crazy happens. So that's awesome for the Canucks prospect. Played very well. Didn't have to do much, but he made 14 saves. Granted, Canada had 14 goals in their 14-0 win over Denmark. But DiPietro looked fine, stopped a penalty shot, and his compete level is obviously very strong. 6-foot goalie, you know, small compared to the other guys. The 6'3" Demko, 6'4", 6'5", Markstrom and Nielsen. A lot of the other goalies are obviously huge, the Rennies of the world. But, you know, whatever he doesn't have in size, he makes up with heart and competitiveness. So really interesting to see. You know, this is going to be a good story to follow for the next few years, as Thatcher Demko, obviously, is 23 years old. Michael DiPietro is 19 years old. So we have our goalie tandem in the future. Just a matter of how quickly we're going to see this tandem come to fruition. We know that next year, Anders Nilsson won't be here because he's a UFA. He expires this year. Jacob Markstrom's got 1 year left on the contract. So do you bring Markstrom and Demko, and is that solid enough for next year? If Markstrom keeps playing the way he has been, yes, that will be solid enough next year. You give Markstrom the lion's share of starts, or go 50-50 or 60-40, whatever you want to do, and then you get Demko going. And then after that year, at the end of next season, you're going to have to make a decision on Jacob Markstrom. Do you sign him for another 2 or 3 years as a backup to Demko as he gets stronger? Well, because DiPietro will still be too young. Or do you bring in another goalie? But that's going to be a very interesting, and you want it to be an abundance of riches, right, at that position, obviously. And you can't help but think, you know, as I think about Demko and DiPietro, do you think about Luongo and Schneider? Luongo is 7 years older than Schneider, but we all know the story behind that, even though Schneider hasn't won a game in a calendar year now, which is sad to see, and a whole year. And then the age difference between Demko and DiPietro is 4 years, right, 23 to 19. So, you know, how quickly will DiPietro push? Maybe it's another 4 or 5 years from now before he's even ready to come to the NHL. So obviously then the Canucks will have to do something at the end of next season when Markstrom's contract ends, and Demko will have, you know, 1 or 2 seasons, maybe 1.5 seasons under his belt in the NHL, or even 1 season. So do you, like I said, do you re-sign Markstrom for another 2 or 3 years? Do you find another goalie for 2 or 3 years until Demko's ready to be a bona fide starter? And then DiPietro, as Demko becomes a bona fide starter, maybe that's when DiPietro comes up from Utica, where DiPietro will play next year. So a lot of cool things to think about as we look ahead down the road, and it just adds to the whole thing of how excited we are about this Canucks team. The big three, Besser, Horvat, and Pettersson. Then you have secondary players like Jake Virtanen and Ben Hutton stepping up. Jacob Markstrom playing well. Our veterans doing veteran things like Beagle, like Roussel. And then we have guys like Sutter and Berchi coming back. Even Eriksson playing not bad. So, you know, Goodbranson and Edler and Tanev playing solid enough. So there's a lot of things to like about this Canucks team. But in essence, the second half of the season starts right now. Oh, one other thing I meant to talk about really quickly. The NHL named its 4 captains for the 4 divisions for the All-Star game at the end of January. That game and the festivities that weekend that I'm going to in San Jose. I can't wait. I've talked about that before. I'm sure I'll be talking about it a lot over the next month. But no surprise, for the Pacific Division, it is Edmonton Oilers forward Connor McDavid. For the Central Division, it's from the Colorado Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon. For the Atlantic Division, you have Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And from the Metropolitan Division, you know it was going to be Ovechkin or Crosby, but it was indeed Alex Ovechkin. So Ovechkin, Matthews, McKinnon, and McDavid. No surprises there. It'd be nice to see Pettersson, as a captain, but I think that will come down the road. Or maybe not if McDavid's always in our division. But, obviously I'm sure Pettersson got some love. And Pettersson, odds-on favorite to be our representative. And who knows, if Besser or Horvat tear it up over the next week or two, maybe they'll get consideration for a second Vancouver Canucks player at the All-Star game. So that's what I got for you today. Lots there. We got tonight's game against Edmonton. We got World Juniors, and we got NHL All-Star captains named. Leave a comment below. As always, I'm going to try really hard to read, reply, and react to everything. We'll go the other way around. Read, react, and reply. And then I do appreciate you taking the time to watch and taking the time to comment. So subscribe if you'd like to. Like this video if you'd like to. Enjoy the game. Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton Oilers. Second half of the season starts now. And looky, at the end of the night, if things go as we want them to, Vancouver will be in a playoff spot. Who would have thought? Have a great day. God bless. And go Canucks go.